Hey, so it's the rainy season right now, and it was actually raining the other day. Last month, I was reading Ring, and for some reason, when I was reading it, it just felt like this is the perfect kind of book to read whenever it's raining outside. It just gave me that vibe, like the same sort of vibe when you watch the movie The Ring. I felt like there's actually a few scenes where it's raining in the novel, and something about rainy day, like reading on a rainy day is the best, right? And this is the rainy season, April showers bring May flowers, right? So this will be the first book on the list. Won't talk about it too much since it was just in my last video or my last, whenever that was. But this definitely gives you that cozy sort of rainy day vibe with a bit of a horror element mixed in as well. So when I think about it raining, I've got a few books here. So, The Ocean at the End of the Lane by Neil Gaiman. This is a perfect rainy day book. Absolutely perfect. It's really short, really quick. You can read it in a couple of days easily. And I mean, just look at the cover. It's like, it's thunder, lightning, it's probably raining. Neil Gaiman's writing is just that perfect sort of cozy, comfortable, get a coffee and just read while it's raining outside with the sound of the rain hitting the window. And I loved this book. I really, really loved this. But everything I've read by Neil Gaiman has been really good so far. So I've got a lot of his stuff that I need to read, but I highly recommend The Ocean at the End of the Lane. I also recently read Norwegian Wood. And this could also go on my books to read when it's cold. This is just such a good book to put you in a certain kind of mood. It's just very melancholy. It's very sad and sort of nostalgic, and it's about a guy talking about, a love that he had when he was younger, the love of his life or his first love. We've all had that before, so you can think about that and the way it made you feel. And it's just very, very sweet, and there's some crude stuff in here, but the overall feeling of the book was just very cozy, comfortable, and yeah, it was perfect reading it on a rainy day. I won't talk too much about The Road. Everybody knows this book. It's been on a video of mine recently because I just reread it, but I mean, it fits the vibe. It really does. So on a rainy day, The Road, a man and his son just trying to survive in the world. And there's a particular scene I think of where it's raining and they know if they don't get into shelter quickly, they're going to die because they're just exposed to the elements. It's so cold. The sun is clouded over, in this apocalyptic future. And when it starts to rain, they're so cold. And so it's just like, rain can be beautiful and comfortable and cozy when we're inside, but if you're out in it, it'll kill you. So next up, I'm gonna actually switch. I got three more novels, but I've actually got three graphic novels. So when I think of Gotham City, I always think of it raining. Any of the movies, the Batman movies, the comics, there's always scenes where it's raining, right? So the first one that came to my mind was just The Dark Knight Rises. I think it's because, The Dark Knight Returns. I was thinking of the movie. I think it's because of that sort of iconic cover where Batman is sort of falling through the air, and there's a lightning bolt behind him, so you can envision that it's raining. So you can see here it's raining in this scene right here. This is it's just one of the all-time classic Batman stories. So you can see the lightning. When I think of this book, I just think of sort of Batman being old and trying to fight in the rain. And yeah, I mean, there's of course the iconic panels toward the end when he's fighting the Joker. And I don't know that it's necessarily raining in that scene, but it definitely gives me that vibe. Of course, let me see if I can find it. It's right here somewhere. There's just the very iconic part where he puts his batarang through Joker's eye. But this is, again, one of the reasons I love these type of books. You can read this in one sitting. You can just sit there on an afternoon. It's raining outside and you can read this story. And yeah, it just fits perfectly with the mood. So this is just the standard trade paperback. Oh, that's such an iconic panel with Superman being hit by the lightning bolts. I won't flip through it too much more. Very famous, but very popular book. Perfect for a rainy day. This one, I mean, come on, this is just too easy. I had to put this on the list. Rain. So I'm looking through my shelves, and I'm like, I could probably find, like, 5 or 10 graphic novels that would fit the mood. And when my eyes went across the Joe Hill portion, I'm like, oh, that's too easy. I mean, this was just easy pickings, right? Low-hanging fruit. If you don't know, this is a story about nails raining from the sky. So it's like a storm of nails raining from the sky. So it's got our 2 lovebirds here, and then all of a sudden it starts raining, but it's raining nails. And it sounds silly, right? That's just what it's about. Joe Hill is just so creative. He makes a whole book here about what if it started raining, but the rain could kill you. Well, what would that look like? Well, this is kind of a spoiler. This is like the first issue, though. I won't flip through and ruin too much of it or anything. But this is just a really, really quick, easy read. Look at that cover. The art is really good. This is actually a short story in his collection. I think it's called something about weather. Strange Weather, I believe is what it's called. I actually haven't read it yet, but this is an adaptation of a short story in that collection. Or a novella, maybe. The art is Zoe Thorogood. So this isn't actually written by Joe Hill. This is adapted by David Boer. But it's originally a Joe Hill story. Anyway, really quick, really easy read. Perfect for a rainy day. Just make you want to maybe stay inside, right? So I've talked a lot about just sort of being cozy, comfortable. Well, when it's raining, I don't know about you, but I can be sort of somber, sad, kind of in like a haunted mood. And this is a perfect book for a moment like that. Maze Book by Jeff Lemire. This is about a man who's lost his daughter. She died very young, and he's not doing good. He's extremely depressed, and his life's kind of falling apart. And this is such a beautiful book. This is one of those books that is really nice to have a physical version of, because it's got the sort of yarn that's textured and it goes all the way through the book. This is a really, really sad and lovely at the same time type of book. So he gets a letter from his daughter who has died, and she says, come find me in the maze. So I wish I had a better system to show this off. Not doing a very good job here, am I? But it's all about him just remembering all these memories with his daughter until he gets this letter, and then he starts to follow the thread. So he follows the thread of her sweater throughout the entire book here. And Jeff Lemire is such a good writer, and this is the kind of book that just really shines with his style, where it's like a kind of like a gimmick where you're following the yarn throughout the book, but he does it so well, and it's just one of those things where you're like, why didn't I ever think of that, you know? Like, I wish I would have thought of that. It's such a smart idea. And yeah, he's just following, trying to find, I won't flip through too much and spoil anything, but yeah, it's just really depressing, but in a, you know, soft, sort of beautiful way. I'm sure you've all felt that way, where you can be sad but be comfortable in that sadness. Like the Nirvana song. And another sort of iconic moment when I think of it raining outside is the Shashank Redemption, right? The movie where he finally escapes and he's just on his knees and it's pouring rain. I love that scene. I think that's like the poster for the movie. And this is the collection that has the Shashank Redemption. It is Different Seasons by Stephen King. So 4 different books, 4 different seasons. So you got the winter at the very end. You got the summer, which is The Body, which is one of the best in the book and one of my favorite movies as well, Stand By Me. But the one that I'm thinking of is Shawshank Redemption, which is, I think it's spring. And then there's the fall, is the one about the Nazi kid. So my favorite is probably the Shawshank Redemption or The Body. Those are both so good, it's hard to pick a favorite. But the Shawshank Redemption, about a man, you don't know if he's like wrongfully imprisoned or not. It's kind of up in the air, but it's about his journey to try to escape the prison, and he takes like his whole life to escape this prison, and it's just really, really fun read, really interesting, really creative. This is Stephen King at some of his best, and this was not horror. Nothing in here is horror, really, maybe the last story a little bit, but this was him just trying to say like, hey, I can do more than just write, you know, spooky stories. And yeah, he killed it. These are really good. So my last 2 books here are actually my favorites. So these are the 2 I would recommend above everything. Probably start with Night Film. So there's a scene at the very beginning of this book when it's raining, and I think of that's the first thing I thought of when I thought of, after I read Ring and thought for the idea of this, I thought of this book, Night Film by Marisha Pessl. It's about a filmmaker, Stanislav Cordova, I believe is his name, and he makes these sort of like occult-y movies that have like a, you know, a cult following. They're really popular, but not like financially successful or whatever. They're just sort of like, he doesn't do interviews. You don't know anything about his life. Kind of like David Lynch or something, I guess, you know. But this man is a investigative journalist, I believe. And the filmmaker, Cordova's daughter, dies, and this man is trying to find out sort of what happened. So it's about our main character, I think his name is like Scott or something like that, and he's trying to figure out what happened, and it leads him to some crazy places. This has some really wild stuff, really, really scary scene, somewhere maybe toward the middle of the book. It's pretty scary, like actually, you know, give you the creepies if you're reading it at night when it's raining in the dark. The ending is really cool. It's like this is like a psychological thriller kind of, really good. I've never read anything else by her. I don't even know if she's written another book. I'm sure she has. Yeah, author of Special Topics in Calamity Physics. I should definitely check it out because I loved this book. I thought it was beautiful. My last book is actually a lot different than the rest of them. It is a crime novel. It is 5 Decembers. And this was my favorite book of, I want to say 2021. This was it, man. This is my favorite book I read that year. It's about a man who is wrongfully imprisoned, kind of like Shawshank Redemption. And his life is, you know, stolen from him. And he comes to get it back and to take revenge in a way. But it's so much more than that. This book has everything. It's got crime, romance. It's got like horror elements, like disturbing elements. Not horror like it's in like supernatural, but like just really messed up. It's got revenge, like Count of Monte Cristo. It's got the Japanese culture aesthetic, which I really love. And it's not a book I've ever heard anyone talk about before. I don't even remember where I heard about this book. I think I just heard like one person offhand say that it was like one of the best crime books they'd read in a few years. And I love crime fiction. And I found this hardcover for really cheap. So I picked it up and I read it in like 2 days. I just couldn't put it down. So this is perfect for when it's raining outside. There's of course scenes when it's raining, and you think of that sort of noir cop drama. This is it, man. This is beautiful. This could also go in my cold day reading because it takes place in December, right? But for some reason, I just thought of the rainy days when it's raining in this book. If you haven't ever checked out any of the books on this list, man, you've got a lot to read. And if you have, I'd love to know which ones you like. And yeah, that's it. I'll see y'all on the next one.